start singing and dancing.
We're
Okay.
live now.
Yeah. Like, because normally we're usually like, what are we usually doing? We're usually singing, right?
Yes.
Because
We're singing.
in the rain, I'm
Sitting in my chair and I'm singing.
There we go. But
I'll
today
spare you my singing.
Okay, but you can dance for us.
Yes, absolutely.
Woohoo! So welcome, everybody. And we have Shannon, myself, and today we have another guest. Jen, why don't you introduce yourself? You are goddess extraordinaire.
Thank you. No pressure. No, I'm just happy to be here because I've been watching all of these. And so it's fun to be in the room with you ladies now. So thank you for having me.
In the room where it happens.
In the room where it happens.
Where it happens.
Here we are. All the good stuff happens in the Zoom room. So my name is Jen Jones Donatelli, and I run a business called Creative Groove, through which I offer courses, community programming, coaching, and other things that start with C, all around creativity and self-expression. So I work with people one-on-one as well as in group programs to kind of design a more creative and colorful life for themselves. And that can include a lot of things, which I'm sure will come up on this call.
I love that. Creativity, and being visible is part of creativity sometimes.
1000%. Yeah. In fact, the biggest tagline on my website says "Ready to Shine?" ? Because when you're truly in your creative groove, you are shining in whatever it is that you do. So it doesn't have to be writing or singing or painting. It could be, coaching or being an accountant, but when you're in your creative groove, you shine and you're willing to be out there.
Yeah.
Up there.
Mm-hmm.
So today we want to talk a little bit about another aspect related to body image. And that is around, Jen, tell everyone a little bit. Oh, you already did tell everyone a little bit about who you are. I'm getting lost.
There's more though. There's always more.
I'm very scattered today, everyone. I'm very sorry.
It's okay.
Tell everyone a little bit about your journey with your perceptions of your body and maybe how that's changed over time.
Yeah, I'll cliff note it and I'll try to have like a little highlight reel here. So yeah, I've pretty much been on a weight roller coaster my whole life. When I was a kid, I was probably just like average size, like I had a little pudge, and I was just didn't think much about my weight really at that time. And then when I got into high school, I was super active, as a cheerleader. I remember I was just thinking about this today. I used to do step aerobics at Racket Time on Lakeland Boulevard. I used to go to step aerobics twice a week. I was always cheerleading. I was just on the go constantly. And I actually got super thin in high school, like to the point where some of my neighbors were concerned about me because I was like bone thin. And it was just kind of a product, I guess, of really fast metabolism, but I was like on the other end of the spectrum from what I'd been as a kid, was like maybe like a little bit more like on the bigger side, and it's been that way my whole life, really. And so as I've gone through my life, like sedentary jobs, active jobs, all the things, I've had a fluctuation of honestly close to 100 pounds over the years, like up and down and up and down, and been on all the diets, did Weight Watchers many times, had success with a few times, didn't have success with it other times. I've actually been in 2 fitness infomercials. I actually was the biggest loser on one of those infomercials. But I've always been interested in kind of being my best physical self, and over the years, that's gotten a lot harder. And kind of the bookend to that is, well, actually, there's so much here, ladies. So I'm trying to just give like a highlight reel. But in 2012, I actually decided that I was going to try out for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. You may have heard. Oh, Sandra doesn't know this story. Oh boy,
I love this story.
There's a whole story here, but it was a bucket list thing that it comes back to weight, because honestly, so I mentioned I was a cheerleader all growing up, Always loved dancing, always loved cheering. I even did it after college. I was on a semi-pro team in Chicago for several years. I was choreographer. And I always wanted to try out for a professional dance team, like the Chicago Lovables or the LA Lakers, or, any, insert dance team here, the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. And when I was about 24, 25, I started gaining weight, and that started me on that roller coaster again. And I never felt thin enough to audition. And so when I turned 35, which was, I guess, 2012, um, I was like, damn, like now I'm too old to actually try out, for one of these teams, but I still have it on my bucket list. And so I decided I was going to try out for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. I was going to fly to Dallas and do it. And I took it really seriously. I trained really hard for about 6 months. Like, I actually wrote an essay about it. I gave up all alcohol. I went on a really strict diet. I worked out like 5 or 6 times a week. I did some unhealthy things. I took water pills. Like, I did a lot. I even spray tanned. I think I've spray tanned like twice in my life. That was one of the times. I I did a lot because even
Mhm.
if I knew I wasn't going to make the team, when I stepped onto that stage, I wanted to feel good, and you have to wear a midriff and you have to wear booty shorts when you try it. So I was like, I want to feel good. And so it was interesting because so I did all that. And then when I got to Dallas, I realized I had spent so much time thinking about my body and what it looked like that I'd actually forgotten to really think about the dancing part of the audition. And there was like a whole freestyle piece. I hadn't even practiced my freestyle. Like, all I had thought about was like what I would look like, in this bra and booty shorts. And the audition was actually a disaster, but I looked great. I was in like the best shape of my adult life in 2012. So that's a whole story in itself. But fast forward a couple of years, I'm still in pretty good shape, still pretty thin. I start going through IVF treatments. And just by virtue of doing IVF, Courtney Kardashian has talked about this a lot. You pretty much gain weight because you're taking various hormones, and you're also emotional eating because it's really stressful and sad and hard. And so after a couple of years of that, I had gained probably about 25 pounds. And then when I finally got pregnant, I got pregnant with twins, and it was a high risk pregnancy. So I was forbidden from any exercise, during that pregnancy. And I had already gained 25 pounds. So then I gained another 30 pounds during my pregnancy. And so I gave birth 7 years ago. And ever since then, I've really struggled with the way I look and like my weight, and wanting to be that best physical version of myself again, and just not being able to reclaim it really. Um, and it's something I desperately want for myself, if I'm honest. And I know I have it in me to do it, but it's been hard to stick with anything really, because you're a mom, you're a business owner, you're doing all the things. I also found out I have ADHD. I didn't find out till I was in my 40s. And so that explained a lot about why I do struggle with consistency and healthy habits and all that. So I don't mean to share my whole life story, but suffice it to say, I've been all over the board with my weight. I've been all over the board with my body image. I can see the various influences that have come in through my life. But I'm at a place where what I really want is to feel good and feel healthy. And to me, it's more than about just weight. It's about a lifestyle and a mindset. So that's kind of what I've tried to embrace, and where I'm at today.
Oh,
Wow.
that's gorgeous, Jen.
Yes. I think
Seriously.
so many of us can resonate with that story, with the ups and the downs and the changes in your body as you age, and all of the feelings and emotions and things that come with it. Um, thank you for sharing that.
Mm.
You're so welcome.
Mm.
What really hit me was what you said about I was just so focused on looking a particular way that, the whole other part of the audition was kind of lost or forgotten.
It was. Absolutely. And it was supposed to be a celebration of my love of dance, but I got caught up in, you know, being on camera, and like wanting abs and like a body that looked like it was meant to be in that skinny mini outfit. But I robbed myself of the experience of like enjoying it in the process.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. That's a huge takeaway.
Yeah, I actually wrote a whole essay about it because I did learn a lot from that experience. And it's like sliding doors, like what if I would have like tried out sooner and like made a team, but for me it was um I at least want to say that I did it. And I am
Yeah.
proud of that, even if I didn't necessarily approach it in a way that I'm proud of. I am proud of the fact that I summed it up, I got out there and I tried out, and that will always be a story I can tell at the dinner table.
You have several of those.
Yeah,
That's right.
true.
That's right.
Yes. My
Yes.
favorite was Ozzy.
Oh my. We'll save that for another day. Um, I'm wondering, I know that you are now at another turning point where you are wanting to bring dance back into your life. Maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So interesting, like dance and cheer has always been part of my life. So even when I didn't fit the mold of a dancer, I've always written for dance magazines. I've always written for cheerleading magazines. I've always been what Julia Cameron would call a shadow artist around dance. Like I put myself in that world, because I love it so much. And when I first moved out to LA, I was teaching dance classes kind of as just a way to get by. And then as I got busier with my kind of writing career and my creative career, that kind of went by the wayside. But when I moved back to Cleveland, about 5.5 years ago, I actually started teaching again for Cleveland State. It was something I wanted to do, and I actually see movement as a big piece of what I'm doing with Creative Groove. So I was, trying to like reestablish that part of my work. And I remember I saw this woman, Noelle, who's amazing. She posted in one of the networking groups that they were looking for instructors. And so I was like, okay, this is a good inroad. I'm going to apply, even though I hadn't taught in years, all that. I was like, I'm ready to get back to it. And I remember I wore like two pairs of Spanx to the interview. I wore all black. I was like trying to look way thinner than I was, and I was like, I want her to hire me. I've actually never told this story publicly, so this is kind of funny. And so I go to the interview and she was fantastic. And finally I just decided to name it, and I was like, I know I don't look like a Barbie doll, but I'm a great dance teacher. And I think your employees would really have a great experience doing weekly dance classes with me. And she's like, I actually love that you don't look like a Barbie doll. That's one of the things I like about you, and that makes you so relatable, and that's not a factor for me in deciding whether to bring you on. So long story short, I did teach for a couple years for CSU's employee wellness program, basically up until COVID. It no longer exists in the same form. So stopped teaching around COVID. And kind of side note, my business Creative Groove was really taking shape during COVID. And so I kept thinking about how I wanted dance classes and movement to be part of it. But as I was kind of like going upward on my weight trajectory again, I found myself getting further and further away from it. And so for years now, I've wanted to start teaching dance classes again. And I I just I kept hearing this voice in my head, like, well, they're just gonna think like, why would I want to take dance class from someone who doesn't look like a dance teacher? Like that, or just different versions of that. Like, well, why you're not in shape? Like, why would you teach me about fitness or, those kind of things. And so I've always just held back, and this desire has been getting louder and louder. And so, um, this is the year that I've decided to start teaching again. And I started a class last week. It's called the Morning Mojo Sessions, and it's not really dance per se, but it is movement. And so it's what I like to say with my coaching clients, I'm trending in the right directions or in the right direction, because it includes journaling, it includes stretching, it includes some light movement. We conclude with an EFT tapping sequence. So even just the act of moving my body, leading people through that was a big turning point for me, because I haven't done that in probably close to 4 years at this point. And so what I envision is body positive dance classes where basically, people any size, any shape, any walk of life, any age can come, get their groove on and just move their body and feel good. And so I forget what your original question was, but that's always been part of my vision. And I've been holding back on it for quite a while because I didn't feel good in my own skin, and I'm not willing to compromise that part of my vision anymore. And I'm not, if I'm not living body positivity, then why would I teach a dance class about that? You know what I mean? So it's up to me to lead by example. And that means putting myself out there the same way I did on that Dallas Cowboys cheerleader stage, and just starting to do it again, and keep continuing to trend in the right direction.
Mm, I
Oh,
want to cry.
I know. That's
Oh,
such
I
an
do.
amazing,
It's
I
just,
just,
it's so powerful and so, it resonates so much in terms of the decisions that we make based on other people's perceptions, our perceptions of other people's expectations, and how much it holds back what we really want to do, which honestly, it's such a gift. Like what you bring to the world, Jen, is such a gift. Um, and you delivering it um, is so important. And then choosing not to because of somebody else's opinions or somebody else's, um, I just, anyway, yeah,
yeah. And to be clear, like no one has ever said that to me. It's me
correct.
saying that
right,
to myself,
Yes,
making up what people are thinking and feeling about me leading a dance class,
right,
because of those societal conditioning,
right,
about like a dance teacher is like perfectly in shape and like ripped and like,
right.
that's what we think of when we think of a dance teacher. But honestly, there's so much more to it,
Yes.
and one thing that's been kind of freeing for me is when I've been thinking about writing the copy for this, like for people to sign up, it's like, this isn't for you if you want the best workout of your life. This isn't for you, if you want your dance teacher to look like a Barbie. This isn't for you if you don't want to just feel good and move your body. If that's you, then yes, like come. But if you have preconceived notions about what a dancer should look like, or who gets to be a dancer, then this might not be the room for you. And that's been freeing for me because it's like, if you build it, they will come. It's like this is what it is. And I would love to welcome other people into the room who maybe are yearning to move their body and just shrink inside because they don't look a certain way, or they feel self-conscious about, being in a dance class.
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah. You're releasing a piece of that self objectification, which is super powerful, and
Mhm.
not an easy task either. Like I know I've grappled with that myself, and it takes a long time to get that little voice. Not so much like it will ever be permanently gone, but to diminish that little voice and be able to say, no, I'm gonna do this, and this is why.
Well,
Yeah.
that's been a pattern I've noticed. Ooh, what's that?
Mhm.
So this book is what is where Shannon is at right now with her. I don't want to objectify, right?
Right.
Hmm.
These ladies basically say if you only like your body when it looks great, that's not body positivity, that's body objectification.
Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And who's to say what is great? I mean,
Right.
great is stepping out confidently and feeling good in your own skin.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But Shan, like I was gonna tell you, like that's a pattern I've noticed in my life is, when you ignore your intuition or your inner longings for too long, like the volume just gets turned up to a 12 to where you can't not do the thing. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like I'm still struggling with my body image and trying to be healthier. Like nothing has really changed in that regard, but I'm not willing to let that hold me back anymore.
That's
And that's
beautiful.
the key.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is beautiful. Oh, you're such an inspiration.
Oh, well, they talk in the artist way about something called the great block lie, which is like, I'm too old to learn how to play the piano for the first time, or I'm too fat to teach a dance class, or I'm too, or I'm not enough of this, and that's what she calls the great black lie that keeps us blocked. And mine was like, I'm too big to teach a dance class. And so when you start to see that as a lie, it's like, oh, like, wait a minute, like I can create my own narrative around this that feels good to me, and do it, just do the thing, and then see what happens from there.
Mm, mm. That's great.
Thanks.
That's
Sandra,
great.
do you have thoughts?
Oh, I have so many thoughts.
I knew you did.
I have so many thoughts and so many emotions that are coming up as I'm listening to you speak. And yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've started a decision by when I get skinny, I will do X. And dancing is one of them.
Mm.
Yeah. And when I lose weight, I'll get pregnant. When I lose weight, I'll go swimming. When I lose weight, I will run a half marathon. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a powerful free association is to start with that,
Mm,
like when I lose weight and just see like what's this threshold, that you've been waiting to cross? Like what are the things you're not doing in your
right.
life?
And the interesting part about all of it is I have done those things, right? I've lost 100 pounds and gained 100 pounds
Mm.
and lost it again and gained it again. And um and I've run a half marathon. And it's just I wasn't I don't think those were the things I was searching for. I think what I was searching for was the ability to believe in myself and that I am powerful and that I can do whatever I want to do and that I don't have to listen to what other people think about me. So that's still very much a work in progress for me.
Mm. Yeah, I love that phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway. And maybe there's something like that here. Like, I don't know what the adaptation of that is, but that's what's coming up. Like you didn't let that stop you from doing a marathon or, the other things. Like you just found it within you, and that's what leading a no regrets life looks like, is
Mm.
just summoning it up, to be able to do those things we dream of.
So you had a March Madness event this year and you had some incredible speakers. And Leanne Webster said exactly what you just said, right?
Mhm.
And she's amazing. Um, and then Bradley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I loved his talk. Can you tell us a little bit about his talk?
Yeah, so Bradley Rapier, you've probably seen him, in music videos and things like that. Like he's one of those people who is a longtime dancer, choreographer. Now he uses his dance background as almost a creative philosophy of sorts, but his tagline is it's not the move, it's the groove. And so I'm not as good at he is as like translating what exactly that means, but basically like what the analogy he uses, like a break dancer can pull out all the tricks on the floor, but at some point those run out. So it's like it's about actually being in your groove, you know. And same with, I guess, feeling good in your body. It's like you don't have to have the great break dancer tricks or be 110 pounds, to be able to be in your groove and like live the life you dream of and do the things you want to do. You just have to find that groove within yourself to be committed to feeling good and um treating your body, what was it you said before, Sandra, about not objectification, but um loving your body as it is, because that's when you're going to be in your groove and you're going to feel empowered, to do things as opposed to like shrinking back. I don't know if that was a good interpretation of what he
Oh,
said, but
it was you brought some powerhouse people to that whole experience. And yeah, it's like why are you waiting to do the thing, right? Like do the thing, right?
right. But I think some of us think we can't be in our groove until we look a certain way,
Absolutely.
and so the first step is like realizing like, wait, this is accessible to me now,
Mm-hmm.
you know And
Yeah.
that's a good and this might be like a little bit of a tangent, but I've been pretty committed to exercise this year. Like I've been exercising a lot. And like there's times where I feel like I have to do things perfectly and I'm like, wait a minute, like I'm just like trying to get in shape here. Like if I do 10 reps instead of 20, like it's still gonna do something, and just kind of like letting myself enjoy the ride a little bit more and know that I keep using this phrase, but like I'm trending in the right direction. So I don't have to show up perfectly every single time to see a result that makes me feel good.
In fact,
Right.
last week we had a conversation with Carolyn Ufford, and she was saying that often if we work too hard, right,
Mm,
that it's actually counterproductive to
I can see
do
that.
a fun thing and to go for a leisurely walk and not to, make it like
Stressful.
don't yeah, or yeah, and in that book that Shannon, I keep telling Shannon to pull out the burnout book.
Mm.
They specifically talk about how we turn exercise from something that helps us fight stress into something that is stressful all on its own because, we have to do the workout. We have to do it this way. And we have to do like 25 million reps and we have to like do a 45-minute workout. And yeah,
Yeah, it's all prescriptive, right? A dance teacher has to be 110 pounds, a good workout has to look like getting your heart rate up. But it's like, no, like to borrow a phrase from Bradley, like when you're in your groove, like you're finding your own way, to honor your body, to honor yourself, to do the things that make you feel good in your own way. And that's okay.
yeah.
I think there's another element to this also. It's making me think about this. So I always used to, and I still do, let my body size and how comfortable I am in my body keep me from doing certain things, right? And even when I was thin, like when I was at my thinnest, and I thought I looked great, and I thought I would be confident and comfortable in my body, I still was not, because I wasn't confident in me deep down, the essence of me. So like I'm thinking back to like taking a dance class or doing Zumba. And I was, even when I was super thin, I felt very uncomfortable moving in my body and having people see me moving. I was very aware and I didn't feel comfortable at all. And it didn't have anything to do with how big or how small I was. It had everything to do with how my self-worth and how confident in myself I was. So I feel like that is still the same, right? Like it's the
Yes.
same concept. You are like, no, I feel I am confident in who I am, and I am going to teach these dance classes because I am amazing and I have a gift to share, right? Which you do. It doesn't matter what size you are because you have that confidence in yourself. And that's the feeling I think all of us are looking for when we think about our bodies and we think about being in our bodies and how we feel in our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the threshold, it probably just keeps going up and up, right? Like you get to your goal weight and then maybe it's still not enough, So it's like these constructs are almost impossible to meet. And so it's like, why would I deprive myself of doing things that matter to me because I haven't reached these imaginary thresholds yet? And it is about that confidence of no, like I get to have this, like I have something to offer here. And I'm just not gonna let it hold me back anymore. So yeah, it is kind of like that like reckoning of like, no, like I matter, at any size, and I'm not gonna stop myself anymore from chasing my dreams. So I don't know if that's similar to what you said or not, Shan,
Mhm.
but yeah,
Yeah,
it's that confidence of like, I get to do this. I get to do this, even though I don't look the way society says a dance teacher should look.
right.
And that gives
It
other people permission to do the same.
exactly. Yes. Mhm. It's owning who you are and knowing that you are beautiful and wonderful just exactly as you are, no matter what body you're in at the moment. I mean, that's what it's all about in my mind, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I look back at pictures of me 10 years ago and I'm like, I miss her, like, where is she? Because like she was super skinny, and like I sometimes I see that as like the best version of myself, but then I think about all the other wonderful ways I've evolved since then. It's like, wait a minute, like Gen 2.0 isn't so bad, or maybe it's Gen 4.0 at this point. Uh,
But you're still that same person. You're still that same being that was inside that body. That was you. That is you today. The only thing that's changed is a little bit of how you look on the outside, but you're still the same. But we feel differently about ourselves based on what we see in the mirror.
Yeah. And the phrase that just came to me is like acting from your essence. Like, who is the essence of you?
Mm.
And how do you let her shine no matter what your shell looks like, you know? Or
Yes, I
him
love
or
that
them,
phrase.
Yeah.
Acting in your essence. Yes. Oh, this is such a wonderful conversation. I could like talk about this forever.
I know you ladies have really tapped into something very meaningful here, and there's endless conversations to be had. And the really cool thing is everyone has their own story and perspective around why they feel a certain way about their body or the journey they've been through with their body. And it's all relatable in its own way because we've all walked that road.
Yeah, so we've been running this 21-day journey.
Challenge.
Yeah, challenge, right? This journey. Um and well, if Sandra ever gets the emails out on the right date, we would be on day, whatever. But today, day 4 went out, even though it's really day 6. But anyway, day 4 went out today. And, I talked about the decision that it would not, when I had in 2017, it won't matter one iota what I tell my daughter. What will matter is what I say to myself that she sees every day. Not what I tell her, but what I do. That is a bigger model for
Mhm.
her. And if I wanted to make a significant impact and not pass down some poor body image behavior, then I had to fix it in myself before I could ever expect or hope that they would pick up some different body image messaging. So yeah, that for me, that is the huge reason why I've decided to do what I do, because I need to fix it in me if I ever hope to have an impact on helping them process differently.
Mhm.
Yes, I feel that. I
Yeah.
have 3 daughters and I always worry about what I'm passing down because I know I still have my own issues and I'm still working on me. And I think, oh my, what am I giving to them?
The
You know?
best you can at the
Right.
moment that you do it. And that is the other thing, Jen, I struggle with it too. Like, as we're having this conversation about body image, right? And clearly I can't possibly have the best body image if I'm sitting here living my life in a large body, right?
Right.
And why? Because and I've been the first to admit it. I have a poor relationship with my body. I don't feel good with my body, right? Especially at the size that it's at right now. And so, right, how can I possibly help women, right, who are feeling the way I feel if they're looking at me and saying, well, what kind of a role model are you? Right?
I want to offer you something, Sandra.
Yeah.
So I have a terrible memory, so I can't even remember who I was having this conversation with, but it was like less than a week ago. And it was someone, maybe it'll come to me by the time I say this, but they were saying how photogenic Sandra is. Like they were like,
Mhm.
Sandra is truly the most photogenic person I've ever met in my life. She cannot take a bad photo. She is so radiant in her photos.
Mhm.
Sadly, I can't remember who was saying this. So if you're out there and you're watching this, identify yourself. Um, but but it makes me sad thinking about what I'm hearing in my head, prescribing these thoughts about what other people are thinking about me as a dance teacher, or you being like, well, I can't feel good in my body because what are people thinking about the way I look, And
Right.
meanwhile, there's somebody admiring you, like, wow, like she is so beautiful in her photos.
Mm.
And
Because
so,
you're attaching that meaning, not,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah,
absolutely.
Mhm.
Right. Yes. And
yeah.
that is really what this retreat day is about. It's about having women come to terms with who you think you are and who your body is are two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and starting to have some awareness and opening the door. If you haven't, you're at different stages in your path, right? Maybe you're just starting to crack the door open on these concepts. Maybe you're way far down along your own path and you just want to explore this deeper. But having the conversations and having the community and a safe space like the one we're providing at the retreat, I think is essential to these kinds of conversations.
Yeah. And today's email, if you're not on the journey and you want to be part of the journey, the 21-day journey, it's free. Just, we'll put the link in the comments and just join. But today's, I posted one of the memes that was most impactful for me. You can't, of course, I'm not going to be able to get to it quickly, but you can't hate yourself into a version of you that you will love.
Wow.
You can't hate yourself into a version of you that you will love. And it has to start from, I love myself. And I am okay with myself. And I accept myself. And I extend compassion and grace to myself. One, because that's where it starts. And two, because when you do it for yourself, you can do it for others.
Preach.
So join the challenge, come to the retreat. Let's get this conversation going because it's important and it impacts so much of your life. So much of your life.
Jen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being
Absolutely.
so open, sharing your story, and just you're amazing you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And I mean, what you're both doing is like you're really helping with noticing and awareness and like shifting perceptions, which is like a big part of this work. So even just through these dialogues, like it's really sparking important conversation. So thank you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thanks. Jen, you're amazing. If people want to get a hold of you, find out more about what you do,
Well, I would love
or
to connect.
engage with your content, how would
Yes.
they do that?
Well, if you want to check out a Morning Mojo session, just go to Eventbrite, type in Morning Mojo session. You can sign up. I'm happy to give anybody a free class to check it out. Just use the code BOOST when you sign up. It'll give you a free class. And I'd love to connect with people on Instagram. My handle there is Your Creative Groove. So I'd love to hear from you there, or you can email me at jen@creativegroove.com. And I'm actually going to go sign up for your challenge because I really want to follow these emails. So thank you for everything you both are doing, to support women in this way.
Thank you. All
Mm.
right. Everyone have a lovely afternoon. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
Bye.
Bye.